Welcome back to Boring Reviews.
Boring land.
Oh, just kidding.
Blasphemer!
All
Hello,
right.
Boring Review Nation!
Kind of pointless.
We know all things.
All right. Welcome back to Boring Reviews on a Throwback Thursday.
Throwback Thursday. Gabe, both wearing our Boring Review shirt in unison. Oh man, I'm so excited to do this review.
Oh, yes. Let's not waste any time. So we didn't do Throwback Thursday last week. We've been a little busy, but we are excited to talk about The Matrix today. It's on Netflix. If for some reason you haven't seen it, check it out. If you have seen it, check it out again. This movie is so phenomenal in so many ways, and it's such a bummer that the sequels are not even close to being as good. But this is a film that is just, it's so groundbreaking. It's so unique. It's so creative. And in a lot of ways, it still holds up to today. Some of the CGI, some of the VFX does not completely hold up, but it's still pretty groundbreaking for 1999 on what I could assume is a smaller budget. Before we get into it, just think about this for a second. Initially, they wanted Will Smith as Neo. They wanted Sean Connery as Morpheus. And man, did we just get so lucky with what we got. I still would like to see Will Smith, but I think Keanu Reeves brings the right naivete to this role that it needs as he's exploring different things. I think Will Smith is just too cool to be able to pull that off, but I could be wrong.
You know, here's the thing, man. Will Smith is an amazing actor. I think that, you know, if you've seen Ali, if you've seen, you know, The Pursuit of Happiness, this guy has some serious acting chops. So people that say, oh, you know, he wouldn't be able to pull off such a serious role, I completely disagree, okay? With that being said, you're right. Keanu Reeves was the perfect person to play Neo. Man, I can remember when I first saw this, 1999. I was still in New Jersey, Atlantic City, New Jersey at the time. And I moved out again to Vegas in 2000. And I remember like this Matrix. This is before social media was big, before trailers were big. So I didn't even know what to expect. And when I went into the movie, my head was spinning. The first 5 minutes, I was like, what just happened?
Amazing.
And it was that movie that you had to see twice. And I think it was, for at least me, it was the first movie where that word of mouth really started buzzing and it blew up. This was the first movie I can remember seeing 5 times in the movie theater. Like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Every person I spoke to, like you said, the storytelling was so amazing. It was like, for the most part, a lot of the stories we've seen in the past are rehashes of other stories. And we can always say this was this was that. This was the first time, like, the Matrix, the concept of the Matrix, you were like, what? Like, the Wachowskis, oh my gosh, it was just unbelievable. The storytelling was unbelievable. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, the movie opens up with all of a sudden just a random phone call, and Trinity is talking to Cypher over the phone. You see like a lot of not green screen, but Matrix, you know, computer code on the screen. And then all of a sudden cops pull up to the building where Trinity's at, and they walk in the room. So she's wearing this tight, sexy black leather outfit or whatnot. And all of a sudden, the agents at the arrive at the building, but the cops are already going up there to arrest her. And the agents, who we thought were at first FBI agents, because again, the trailers did not give up anything of the story, were like, you know, we told you to wait for before we went up. And he was like, don't give me that bureaucratic crap, you know what I'm saying, or that jurisdiction crap. You know, we're taking care of it. And he said the orders were for your protection. That's what the Agent Smith tells him. And he goes, it's one little girl. We can handle one little girl. He said, no, your agent.
2 units up. We're good.
And all of a sudden, you cut to her up there, and they're about to arrest her. And that one fight scene was the first time I've ever seen anything like that. Super slow-mo. She was running on the side of a wall, breaks the guy. I mean, the way she moves, the way it was shot was absolutely amazing. I was sitting in there like, what just happened? I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand it. The first time I saw it, it was amazing.
And if you look at the movie after watching it several million times since then, you think, you know, it could have been really easy for them to start off with just Neo, Thomas Anderson, and his whole story. You don't necessarily need that opening part, but that opening part sets the tone. that opening part is that jaw-breaking moment where you're just like, this is going to be something special. And I wonder if they added that scene later on thinking we need to have something just to grab their attention, because story-wise, it doesn't really add too much. You get introduced to the agents and what they can do. You get introduced to Trinity and what she can do, and she's a great character. But think about groundbreaking stuff. This is one of the very first that I can remember, legitimate female heroines who you see and you look at that and you say, yeah, I totally believe Carrie Ann Moss can do all of those things. This girl, I wouldn't mess with her. Nobody should mess with her. This girl is the bomb. And it's one of the first strong female leads you had in 1999. And I think it's awesome. And there's other things, social commentary, whatnot from this film that are very groundbreaking. But that opening scene, you're right, is awesome. I remember I heard about it word of mouth. I grew up in a household where we didn't watch rated R movies. And so going to the theater to watch a rated R movie was just, unheard of, but I was 17 at the time. So legally I can do whatever I want as far as movie goes. So my friends keep telling me about it. So I go with my friend, fine, I'll watch it. I didn't want it to be good. I don't know why, just too much word of mouth. It was getting annoying. I didn't want it to be good. And that first 5 minutes, I turned to my buddy. I'm like, oh, it's on. This is awesome. And the entire movie. And if you're, a family man or a family woman or whatever, and you are worried about watching this movie on Netflix because rated R, have no fear. There is no reason it should be rated R. There is some violence, shooting against cops or whatnot, but there's no blood when they have that scene. There's no even F-bombs in this entire film. You have one middle finger shown. This movie should not have been rated R. It's just completely fun. Anybody should watch it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny when you're talking about that opening scene. That was the first time I realized too, you also have to pay attention to story, because it wasn't until the third or fourth time I saw the movie where I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Because remember, Trinity's on the phone and she's like, did you hear that? Cypher? He's like, no, what? And then at the end, when Trinity disappears in the phone booth, which at that point I was still confused, like, what just happened? Did she get run over by a truck? She disappeared. And he goes, she made it out. The agents are talking to each other. And he said, it doesn't matter. The informant is real. A little foreshadowing that, there's a traitor amongst their midst. I completely missed that the first 2-3 times I watched this film.
I never even noticed it. I'll be honest. I just watched it again today. I didn't even notice that. So that's cool. One thing I did notice is the room she's in for that phone call is room 303. It's the same room that Neo goes into at the end when he's trying to get to a phone, room 303. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. There's a lot of Easter eggs embedded in this, like the one you mentioned. And there's one in particular that I thought was really interesting. So we're going to jump around. But there is a point where Neo goes to the Oracle, right? So he's being told by Morpheus that you are the one who will be able to control the Matrix when you're inside the Matrix. Gabe's mind's about to explode. I just went to this point right now. But it's okay. We got to keep these under 20 minutes. But there's a part where he goes to the Oracle and he's being told by her, basically, am I the one? Am I not the one? And anyone watching this review, you've seen The Matrix. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But when I first watched it the first 2 times, I always hated that part because she tells him, I'm sorry, honey, you got the gift, but you're just not it. And it sucks. And then she tells him a bunch of other stuff. But she also says, I can see why she likes you. All right. Now, this is just all out left field. Just bear with me. She's talking about Trinity and why Trinity likes her. And we find out at the end that Trinity was told by the Oracle a bunch of stuff, but one in particular, that she would fall in love with the one. Okay. Right. Now, if the Oracle said that to Trinity or to him, that I know why she likes you, she's saying that because she knows that Trinity does like him. And then she knows, therefore, that he is the one because Trinity falls in love with the one, which is what she said. And Morpheus tells us at the end, the Oracle just told you what you needed to hear. Right. But it's just there's discussions out there, there's opinions out there that the Oracle was wrong or that the Oracle told him the wrong thing or she was trying to be cagey. She knew from the very beginning who he was because she says, I know why she likes you. It's stuff like that that gets me excited as a film fan because these are writers that just put everything into it and they put these little hints in there. And sometimes it takes 20 years to figure these things out.
I just think that, and normally we don't do this with Throwback Thursdays, but because this movie was so out there, so groundbreaking, for anybody who hasn't seen the film, we got to give them a quick synopsis. But for those few of you that haven't seen The Matrix, okay, here it is. apparently at some point in the 21st century, there's a war between or mankind gives birth to AI. AI eventually, you know, against the machines will kill us, Terminator, all the other stuff, turns against humans, and there's a war. We black out the sky, so the machines figure out a way to use our bodies as batteries, basically, in order to, you know, generate all the electricity they need to run their machines. Okay. So they start growing human beings or whatnot. Now, this war has raged on for a couple hundred years, even though they think it's the year 1999. It's actually the year 2199, and we find out later on it's much later than 2199. But the bottom line is that you're living, or we are all living, in a computer generated reality. That's what the Matrix is. To keep us, it's a level of control to keep us asleep while they're harvesting our bodies for energy. So when you're plugged into the Matrix, you're not really in the real world. The real world now is a desolate wasteland after the war, because we scorched out the sun. There was a nuclear war between mankind and the machines. So everybody's asleep in these like little battery things, for the best way I can explain it. But when we're talking about the Oracle and we're talking about all these other things, this is happening inside the Matrix. What is the Matrix? It's a computer simulated reality of life, just to it's a system of control to keep you asleep at the wheel. And I don't want to ruin anything for anyone who hasn't seen everything else, so I had to just say that. But yes, there's a lot of little Easter eggs like that, Nick, and I love that part about with the Oracle, because again, even if I had, she says something really interesting. She says, being the one is like being in love. Nobody could tell you you're in love. You just know it. So she could have told him he was the one right then and there, but she wouldn't have believed her. He just needed to know it. So she wanted him to discover it for themselves. Let's talk about some of the acting performances. Lawrence Fishburne, before this film, I had only seen him in what is that? The first movie, Deep Cover. He was amazing in Deep Cover, and then he was also the dad in Boys in the Hood. Okay, so I had seen him in a few different movies, but this was like one of the. I was like, wow, this guy has some acting chops on it. He's amazing. We talked about earlier on about the scene, the little Easter egg. They talked that there's a traitor in their midst. That's Cypher. I love Cypher. He's one of my favorite bad guys of all time. Why? Because they give him a real world motivation. It's not just, I want to be evil for evil's sake and I want to go to the machine side. It's saying, listen, ignorance is bliss. Yes, we all want to fight and we want freedom, but is freedom really free? I'm not free. What do? I do everything that Morpheus tells me to do. I'm eating gruel and slop all the time. I don't obviously get any affection because the woman I'm in love with, Trinity, doesn't love me. She loves Neo. So I understood Cypher's motivations for what he did. Okay, like, look, if you had told me that you're gonna tell me the truth, but the truth was gonna be a life of pain, of being cold, of hiding, of starving. Like, if you even tell people that right now, would people give up those cushy lives? You know what I mean? So it was the first bad guy in the long that I could remember that they gave him such a realistic story, backstory, a motivation, that I was like, wow, Cypher was kind of right. You know what I mean? Like, I can understand his position. You know what I mean? And I love that. And that was Joe. I always want to say Joe
Pantoliano or something like that. I can't
yeah,
say his
Joe
last name.
Pantoliano. He's a character actor. He's been in a few other movies. Most notably, he's in the Bad Boy movies as the head of the unit that Will Smith also works for with Martin Lawrence. He's the captain, but he was so good in this movie. And of course, Agent Smith, who plays a huge role in all three films, he's actually the duality with Neo, you know, yin and yang, everything has to have symmetry. And Agent Smith, the head agent of these, when we say agents, they're basically sentient programs, because again, the Matrix is a computer generated world, and these agents, like, they're basically short of superheroes. They go out there, they hunt rogue programs, and they are no joke. And Agent Smith is the guy from Lord of the Rings, Nick.
Hugo Weaving.
Hugo Weaving, he puts on a really good performance. I hated that Mr. Anderson. Like I wanted to choke the life out of
Oh, I love it. I love it. There's a student I know whose first name is Anderson, and every time I see him, hello, Mr. Anderson. I think it's fantastic. Hugo Weaving and the other agents, they did this interesting concept where they casted these guys who are like, they look like pencil pushers. They look like nerds. They look like guys who are not intimidating, but it doesn't matter because these guys have laws that they have to follow within the program, but they can basically do whatever they want within those laws. And so it's a really interesting thing that these guys in the street, you're not going to be intimidated by them, but then you can see what they can do. And it's like, whoa, what's going on here? These guys are unbelievable. There's so much about this. Going back to Cypher for a second, it's easy to hate that guy because I don't like the villains, but it's also easy to justify why he was willing to do what he was going to do because he said, I don't want to remember anything. So he's going to kill these people that he probably does care about, but he's not going to remember any of it if everything goes according to plan because he's going to go back, someone important, someone rich or whatever, and never remember it ever again. And I'm willing to bet that if this was real life and if Morpheus and his people and Zion and all that people, if they freed everyone from the robots and now they were living in the real world with the scorched sky and whatnot, I'm willing to bet most of them would be upset at these freedom fighters saying, I was good where I was at. I don't care what was happening to my body. I was good. I had money. I had cushion. I was enjoying myself. Send me back. You guys ruined my life. And it seems crazy to some people that think that way, but I think there's a lot of people, maybe the majority of people that would be upset about that. But without getting too far off track, this movie, it's got amazing action. I mean, the amount of bullet shells that are shown in this movie is unbelievable. They use the artistic touch with the water when they're trying to save Morpheus. They use, the iconic shifting and slowing down, slow motion stuff that was copied so many times after that. And you have this whole idea of, I'm going to learn jujitsu and kung fu by training in a program. And you think to yourself, I can see that happening because you go into a program, you play any video game, you get better and better at it, repetition. Yeah. And there's so many cool elements in this film that the 2 hour and 15-minute journey you go on does not seem like 2 hours and 15 minutes. It goes by within a flash. You have these cool, sleek-looking characters with these interesting, hacky names or code names when they go out of the Matrix. But there's so many things layered. The thing I love is Neo's journey. He does not want to believe it. He does not want to accept it. And most people can relate to that. Like, okay, you're telling me I'm the one. I can do whatever I want. I can be a god. I don't think so. I'm just Thomas Anderson. But he starts to, when he realizes that he wants to help out Morpheus, he starts to, without thinking about it, starts to believe that he has the abilities to at least fight off these bad guys so they can at least get to Morpheus.
Right.
And he's out of his head. He's not thinking, I'm the one. Come on, make it happen. Come on, let me fly or whatever. He's just going about it, building confidence. And as he does that, as he learns different things, and then you have Trinity's speech at the end, he finally understands what Morpheus has been saying the whole time, that you just got to stop thinking about it. You just got to let go and let it happen, and it will happen. It vindicates Morpheus's ideology. It is just done in such an iconic, amazing way that I still get choked up when I watch him stand up and say no. So many awesome things. My only complaint about this movie, is I wanted to see more of Superman Neo. I wanted to see a little more. We just got a small little taste, and you get some in the sequels, obviously, but just give me a little bit more for the journey I was going on, trying to realize, is this guy the one or not? Just give me a little bit more kicking butt with those agents or something, or some other things he can do. Right. But other than that, this is an A+ for me. This is a great film. Absolutely love it.
A+. You know what's funny? This was the first movie that I can ever remember where the Wachowskis, again, these guys are amazing. These brothers are amazing. They really thought about not just every small detail, backstory. Most people say, oh, I hate Mary Sue's, or, people that just automatically have these abilities. And we talk about how, well, technically you're in a computer simulated program, so as long as you can download that information, like you talked about repetition, and they talk about, oh, here's the training programs, because it wasn't like Neo overnight became Neo. You know, first they had to get him out of the Matrix, unplug him, he had to heal, but then once he started downloading all the information, you start realizing, wow, there is something about this guy, because the guy, Tank, who's one of the operators, he's the one uploading him with all the digital information, and he goes, oh, Morpheus says, how's he doing? He's like 10 hours straight. This guy's a machine. He's just devouring information, and he learns kung fu, jiu-jitsu, like everything, because it's just like, oh, download, boom, you learned it. And I love when Neo is fighting Morpheus in there, even though he has the skills to beat Morpheus, because he has downloaded all this information. His mind is still, again, talking about level of control, stopping him from doing so. And Morpheus is like, why did I beat you? And he goes, you're too fast, you're too strong. He said, do you think my muscles have anything to do with, you know, with me beating you in this place in here? He says, you think that's air you're breathing right now? And then that light bulb goes off in Neo's head, like, oh, we're still in this computer program. I can pretty much do whatever I want to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm as fast as I think I am. So they really build that backstory as to how Neo becomes the savior. It's not like he becomes the savior right away, or this Mary Sue where he's just Superman right away. And even right after that, when he does beat Morpheus in the Kung Fu training program, he fails at the jump because he still does, he believes, but he doesn't believe all the way. So the storytelling is amazing. One of my favorite films of all time. If I'm not mistaken, when we did our top 10 of all time, I think I either put The Matrix in top 10 of all time.
You put it in your top 10, yeah.
Okay. I mean, this movie was so groundbreaking, and it was the first time I absolutely fell in love with movies that I was like, wow, this is storytelling. Watch it, guys. It's on Netflix. I keep forgetting. Somebody said in the comments, bro, Netflix ain't free. It's up to like $14.99. Okay, if you have a Netflix subscription, or if you know somebody that does.
Everybody knows at least somebody. Come on. I do want to end, because you mentioned Lawrence Fishburne, and I didn't say anything about this guy. He's the only guy in the world, in my opinion, that can give that performance in that role. I mean, he is so the embodiment of that mentor, of that ultra cough. I mean, he's like a child when he's so excited that he found Neo. He's walking around with his hands bent behind his back. I don't know how he walks that way. And just the way he's teaching, like you're saying, like, you think that's air you're breathing? Like, he is so good at mentoring Neo to become what he wants. And his whole life is just, this is my mission, is try to find the one. Lawrence Fishburne does such an amazing job. Mad props to him. I don't want to see anyone else in that role. And I mean, man, this guy, the only thing I knew him from was a movie poster in my room that I got for free from a movie called Fled, where him and one of the Baldwin, Stephen Baldwin, were escaping from jail. Never saw the movie. But I mean, this guy, unbelievable. Check out the movie.
He was in New Jack City. That might have been the first thing I saw him with. New Jack City with Christopher Walken. But Deep Cover was his first big role. But you know what, guys? Before we end this, Matrix 4 has been announced, okay? And I'm so excited to see what they're going to do with the Matrix 4. Keanu Reeves is signed back on. And after seeing what Keanu Reeves has done in John Wick, like his acting, his physical acting has come back has come so much further than what it was back then. I can only imagine what technology they have today. Oh, goosebumps. I cannot wait. Matrix 4. But before you get into Matrix 4, you got to watch the trilogy. So if you guys haven't watched it, some of our younger audience, you haven't had a chance to watch the Matrix, watch the whole trilogy. It's an unbelievable story. Again, the first one is amazing, it's groundbreaking. The other two aren't as good. I mean, Matrix Reloaded is good in my opinion. Okay, the last one I was like, what just happened? But that's like, you know, the trilogy, man. The third one always gets you for whatever reason. X-Men: The Last Stand. I can name tons of thirds in trilogies where you're just like, what just happened?
Yeah, but the third one's not good at all. They focus too much on that old guy with the beard or whatever, and it's just curious. I'm not sure what they call it. Architect. Yeah. It was just so boring. But there's our thoughts for Throwback Thursday for The Matrix. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys watched the entire thing. And don't forget to come back for more videos. Until next time.
We know all things.